And welcome to It Is Late Night Somewhere. That somewhere happens to be the East Coast of the United States and much later still across the pond in the UK. Am I correct to assume that the UK has leapt forward an hour? Or does that not happen until tomorrow? You all have only been 4 hours ahead of us on the East Coast the past couple of days. Hello, Alex, Ross Hunter, JK160, Machiavellia Sucks, Mary, Pastor Ann, I see you there. Mike, Police, good to see all of you here. Mr. George will be with us in a moment. He's having some YouTube issues. There's
I'm here.
There he is. This great Spartan Warrior Queen. I want to thank her for all of her great work in moderating the protracted chat yesterday as Clarion and I spoke about a lot of the censorship that is going on right now, and as well how to teach your children to pick a white mate. Very important. You have to be on top of that these days, since the anti-whites are doing everything they can to teach your white babies that it is the cool thing, the hip thing to find themselves a non-white mate and produce non-white babies. In fact, Clarion revealed for us during the show that indeed in the Christian community, some of the real fundamentalist Christian communities, it is currently the rage to get your white children non-white baby dolls to play with. So the little white girls at these churches are learning to care for little non-white babies so that they can grow up and desire to have some of their own. How absolutely despicable, how absolutely wretched that they would do this sort of brainwashing to these little girls. If you did the same, if you tried the same with non-white children, if you were to try to teach them that they should not want to reproduce their kind, their culture, their history, that they should not want to promulgate it and carry it forward and be a link in the chain, then you would be roundly demonized as the devil himself. But when you do it to whites, it is celebrated as a great morality, and that tells you everything you need to know about these people who like to present themselves as your moral betters, whether they be anti-whites at your university or at the government, in your job, or even in your churches. They are not your moral betters, of course. But we have Mr. George here with us. I wonder if his mic and his computer are working. We're trying something tonight. We want to two things tonight. We want to conduct a little experiment that has came to me and I thought would be an exciting thing to try. And we also wanted to make sure that my microphone and the computer, my connection is working well. So my question is, does anyone hear the horrible buzzing and hissing that came about during the end of yesterday's Going Free stream? Or is that not present? There's Jessica Wild. Good to see you. The Real Punisher. And again, a big thanks to Spartan Warrior Queen for all her work yesterday and the work that she'll be doing again today, and making sure that we don't suffer from Gresham's Law, which is a law that actually applies to the economy. It means that bad money, if you have two currencies, the bad money will chase out the good money. And in the same way, we apply Gresham's Law to the chat, and that if there are people who are trolls, troglodytes, what have you, their comments, their curses often drive away the good conversation, the constructive conversation that we want to be taking place. So we want this to be, as is always the case with It's Late Night Somewhere, for this to be a little laid back. Wild card, good, clean sound. Thank you very much. Frost Forge, great to see you. Sound is good as well. Good. Andre, no hiss. JK160, sounds good. Josh, good to see you, Josh. He says all good. Ryan also, audio sounds perfect on my end. So then the question is, since that horrible hissing and screeching erupted, I guess during the last third of that show, was that one of the glitch ban efforts by our friends, our anti-white friends over at YouTube, just like the anti-white friends that we have over at Vimeo who permits a video to be on their platform for years about a person dreaming about a world with no white people and how wonderful that would be. Totally acceptable to the anti-white
Oh, is
bastards.
that something you found on Vimeo?
Yes, this is
I wasn't
something that
aware.
I think it was, maybe it was, who was it that actually drew my attention to it? It was maybe Saint Stringfellow, or if somebody remembers who mentioned that yesterday on the Going Free stream. Yeah, they ended up, Jared, they ended up deleting all of my videos and banning me under, the pretext of this is, you breached our rules, our ethics. Oh, and there's Laurel. Great to see you, Laurel, in the chat.
Yes,
And
hi,
good
Laurel.
Mackie. Well, yes, they said so. I breached these rules, and so I went and looked them up, and of course, it was inciting hatred for other groups, speaking badly of other groups, inciting violence. And so I appealed, and I said, look, I didn't do any of these things. Please go through my videos. Surely you still have access to them, and you'll see that all I do is express love for my people and white well-being. And I said in my email that if you object to white well-being, then just say so and say that's the reason you're kicking me off, censoring me from your platform. And they wrote back and they added to their rules in this email that it was also if there is something like a negative vibe. I have to
Vibe,
open it
yeah.
again. Yeah.
You showed me the email, and it
Yeah.
was actually, they used the word vibe. I
Yeah.
was not aware of this second piece of information, that you discovered a video on Vimeo where someone, or something was brought to your attention, where
Right.
someone is saying that they imagine a world without white people. We have to leverage that. We have to bring that to people's attention. That's anything that's thrown against us, we're going to use. You said anti-white friends. I guess we've been making a lot of friends
A lot of
recently.
friends, yeah.
We have a lot of new friends, but it's strange company.
Well, we got some real friends there. We have, I see Marsha there, Ricky Bobby.
I was going to say the same.
Pastor Ollie
We have good
Field.
friends here in the chat.
A lot of good friends, and it's good to be surrounded by good people, because the kind of people that come to white well-being and are empowering themselves with the lexicon and the dialectics that we provide are worth 20 that show up at in the other chats of other channels. So I'm delighted to have you all here. You are the real movers and shakers. It is, like I mentioned the other day, like the Pareto principle. There's a small number of people who actually do the vast majority of the work. And those are the people that Jared and I would like to see in our community, our circle of friends. And looks like we've already had a super chat come in by way of the familiar alternative. Someone broke out the shovel and the pickaxe and dug down into the description.
It seems like people have learned that.
Yes, it was the Real Punisher super chatting $20. Thanks, Jared and Jason. Thank you so much,
Thank
Real
you.
Punisher. Great member of our community. See him a lot. You can always tell the people who are, who really want to make this happen. And it's so important. What I was talking about yesterday, Jared, I'd like to get your thoughts. But I'd also like to mention the second part of the reason why, aside from just finding out and discovering now that my system is working just fine.
So there's not an anti-white harpy floating around in your computer right now.
Right. Exactly. That is not happening. But actually, I'll just go ahead and say that quickly, that we are going to transition mid-show
into women.
Keep the show going.
We're going to transition into women. We're going full progressive, full progressive trends right here.
Right. Then the audience count will really balloon. Now,
we'll turn the cameras on for the surgery.
Well, they would make a mess. We would be some ugly women, Jared. I tell you what.
You know what? I think that's a good compliment, though. As a man, we'd make ugly women.
Well, probably so. That is a good compliment.
Good jaws, so that's a good thing.
Exactly. Well, they wouldn't be able to do anything about the jawline, that's for sure. But no, what we are going to do is we are going to keep the show running. And we've never heard of this being done before, so we might be the first. We're going to keep the show running. But it is going to transition from this channel, my channel, over to Jared, or migrate over to Jared's channel. The show will keep going. All of you, we will provide you with the link. You can pick that link up when we get to that point, which will be roughly around 10:45 or so. You can pick that link up and then start viewing this same show from his channel, from Jared's channel. And if you have not already subbed there, you should, when we make this transition, go ahead and sub while you are over there watching us. And we're going to see if this works. If it does work, this might give us a number of opportunities for the future. It might enable us to make things a bit harder for our censors to keep us down. I see we have a super chat from Sismic77, super chatting $10. I'm Polish in America. My wife is Chinese, but we both want a blank America. Remember, I'm blank myself. So go screw yourself, anyone against me. Okay. I guess blank America, does that mean a
Blanco?
normally,
Is that like the Blanco in Spanish for white?
oh, I don't know. That's actually a good question.
I think
Normally,
he's saying that unless he wants to clarify. And we've had, I don't know if it's the same person, we've had such comments before. We see things like that sometimes.
right. Yeah. Well, no, he has made a number of positive comments on the channel. So perhaps if he could, you don't have to super chat again. You can merely tag Jared and I with your comment, and we will see if you want to clarify on what you're saying. We have Victory Lap Life super chatting with $5. Never share your DNA results at work. I'm paying for it to this day. Neanderthal inbred. Okay. Thank you for that super chat. You should probably, and actually that just reminds me of a tip that everyone should be aware of when it comes to all of their electronic devices. If you have, and I think there are a couple different names for this, but it's location services is one of the names for it. If you have this on your desktop, on your laptop, on your iPad or iPhone or Android or whatever it is, every time you take a photograph, it will log where you are. If you're at home, it will log it. And then when you share that information, when you just copy and you send it off to someone, that photograph, that information goes with the photograph. It is available for people to look at. So whatever your devices are, make sure you look up online how to turn that location services off, or your home address. Perhaps you could be picking your child up from school when you take a photograph, and that location is going to be stored somewhere and be accessible potentially to anti-whites at some point in the future who might want to cause you harm. You might want to look back through your pictures and make sure that if they do have your location on the pictures, that you attend to that. It's an important thing for your safety to make sure that you are on top of. Ezra, Chapter 9, super chatting with $1. Thank you very much for that super chat. Thank you for being here with us. Let's see, we have another one. Smitty, 2000, super chatting with $4.99. Thanks, gentlemen, for all that you do. And thank you. Thank you, and Ezra. Thank you all for being here with us. We're doing God's work. This is the if there's any cause in this world that deserves your life, it is the biospirit of our people, the spirit that brought you forth, that you should live for. And there's something that you can be selfish about this, because there's something very powerful about getting into this struggle. There's something about the human animal and being in an actual struggle, actually in the environment of the fight for our well-being, in the fight for the well-being of our children and the generations yet to come. It elicits something, it brings something or awakens something that is inside of us, and it thereby either makes us more human or something more than human. When you take an animal, think about when you take a tiger or something and you put it inside of a cage in the zoo. Its instincts are muted. Its instincts are weakened. It receives its food every day. There's no more the stalking, the strength and the speed of the predator still lives within the animal. And of course, the animal wants that. This is one of the reasons why, of course, they build out these elaborate enclosures for these animals, because it is a psychological detriment to them to be in those environments. And yet you see these animals, they almost wither compared to the same animal in the wild. The same is true of the human animal. When we are in civilization and we are not pushed to our limits, when we are not challenged daily, when we live essentially in a cradle for the totality of our lives, our great instincts, our great talents are muted. They are blunted. And so when you realize what's really going on in the world, when you realize that there is this great fight before you, this great challenge, all of those instincts well up, all of that strength comes up inside of you. It's something that I feel, it's something that Jared feels, and every single one of you, if you put yourself to that fight, if you don't turn away from reality, the reality of the jungle, you will begin to feel that spirit filling your veins as well. So Jared, we have a couple more super chats. Laurel super chatted by way of the familiar alternative. Thank you so much. Super chatting with $10. She writes, Bob and channel weave with the anti-whites. Bob and channel weave with the anti-whites. I believe that's what it says. Not really sure. I will look into that though. Let me see. We also have, if you have any idea, Jared, feel free to jump in on what that might mean.
I'm afraid I don't. And I see we have a lot of super chats coming in. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I wanted to get to when you're done with these, as you're talking, there's a trend on Twitter. We didn't plan to talk about this, but it might be a good spontaneous thing. The top trend right now on Twitter on my notifications page is hashtag my white privilege. People are recounting the quote outrageous things they've gotten away with because of my white privilege. Might be fun to click on that hashtag and kind of analyze in real time some of these top trending hashtag my white privilege after you get through some more of the super chats.
Yeah, let's what people got away with because they were white. I'm just
they're doing their, don't you know, they're doing their public penance by putting up this clever hashtag and sharing it with the world on Twitter.
Yeah, that's really what a sickness, folks. That is white noir that has just absolutely consumed these people's brains, that they are devouring themselves. How absolute. This is why, this is why people say clown world. We can talk about Jared Taylor. We could talk about Martin Sellner. We could talk about the struggles that Clarion and her colleague are facing on Facebook now with this ban on white separatism. But Gotchi super chats with $20. Thank you very much, everyone. The time for entertainment derived from these streams is drawing to an end. We won't always have the internet network go free. Amen. And thank you very much for that super chat. That is the absolute truth. We have to get a move on. We have to start making this happen, because you're right. They are clamping down, and we'll continue to see that. And we talked yesterday about why they need to prevent you from hearing us. By the way, I will ask again, is the sound still okay? Are Jared and I about the same volume? And is there any hiss or any loud hiss as occurred yesterday? Bill Seaver super chatting with $10. Devil's Advocate, there are many Black, Hispanic, and Asian Americans who love the U.S. and have served and died to serve its interests. Is it a white ethno-state that is ideally desired? Well, the future, and this is, I don't think neither Jared nor I do this speculation about what the future will look like exactly, because we're going to deal with right here and now. When it comes to Black and Hispanics and Asians and other non-whites who have died for the United States while serving in the military, would they have served in the military? Would they have died for this country if it had not been a country that favored them? If it had not been a country that stole from the white race in order to empower them? If it had not been a country that was accommodating to them? If it had not been a country that was welcoming them into its universities, paying their bills, giving them welfare, what would their true sentiments be for this country if the workplaces were not bending over backwards to hire more of these people, to make these environments more comfortable for them at the expense of us? What would they feel when it came to the United States if it was a country that served the founding stock of this country and was, at most, fair to these non-white peoples rather than giving them preferential treatment? We can't know, but I think that it's easy to surmise, or it's at least legitimate to surmise, that they would have a very different opinion if it wasn't a place where they were the specials and we were second-class citizens, where they were advanced, enriched, and empowered at our expense, detriment, and ruination. I think their sentiments would be very different indeed. We have Justin super chatting with $10. I finished Born Guilty, and I'd like to share my favorite line in your book. Quote, "For he who sows truth while darkness reigns shall lack not a harvest when the sun returns." That's on page 154. Absolutely glorious, he writes. Thank you very much for sharing your testimony there, Justin, and how much you enjoy the book, that particular quote from the book. Thank you. That is an honor to have you share that with us. In fact, with a super chat as well. Frost Forge, super chatting $10, used the phrase anti-white the other day at work to a woman who was clearly being so. A black guy I worked with actually applauded me when I stood up and called her out. It was very surprising. Indeed, you all will find, this is, it is endlessly a shock to me. And then we'll get Jared's opinion on this, but it's endlessly a shock to me that so many people are so reluctant to use these, and it's been this way for years, to use this lexicon. They think somehow it's just too naughty. They can't try it out. They can't try these different ideas. They can't say it's not the similarities that make us the same. It's the differences that make us different. They can't say things like this because it's just too darn naughty. But then when they do it, it is like this prison that they've been encased in suddenly shatters, and it's just made of glass, and they're instantly empowered, and they wonder all along, why didn't I try this earlier? You know, they come back with these great stories. So thank you very much for that, Frost Forge, the super chat, investment in white well-being as well. Thank you, Justin, for bringing attention to Born Guilty and your favorite line in the book. If anybody else out there has a favorite line from Born Guilty, don't hesitate to share that line. We have Ballista Compact super chatting $50. Thank you so much for that super chat. First time donating. Just wanted to express my deep gratitude for your channel. The way you spread this message with such positivity and dignity is so inspiring. God bless you and all our people. Amen to that. Thank you very much for that kind super chat. Your first super chat.
Thank you.
Investment in white well-being. Jared, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Simply thank you. I mean, I'm overwhelmed. This is it's basically just everyone sharing super chats right now, and I don't even feel like we're doing anything, but of course, it's the pent up, the built up goodwill from everything that's been going on for a long time. So I just express my deepest gratitude, and we will continue doing this in any way, shape, or form that we can. You know that, and it's going to continue. We will run over things, around things, under, through, whatever the case may be. We know there's going to be hurdles, but we've committed to this. It's our lives.
Indeed. We have Wild Card super chatting $9.99. Jared Taylor, barred from speaking in our European homeland. When will the sleepers awaken? Well, I think they are awakening, and that is what is so powerful right now. Things like this happening, things like Jared Taylor being banned. And by the way, we can just talk for a moment about that, but I think I just realized what Laurel was saying when she was super chatted. I don't know if I was thinking that there was an anti-white in the chat, but I think what she was actually just referring to is like fighting bob and weave when it comes to anti-whites in that sense. So I think I've got it now. I looked back through, I didn't see any anti-whites in the chat. So I think it was just a general, and I tell you what, Laurel, I've been in plenty fist fights with the anti-whites, and I have done plenty bobbing and weaving. So I get what you mean. But we did have Mr. Taylor, and this was a terrible thing that happened, as you all know, if you listened to the stream yesterday. And thank you for that super chat, Wildcard. That's also generous of you. Thank you. If you were with us yesterday, Clarion and I, we talked about my good friend, Mr. Jared Taylor, who is over in Europe. He will be arriving home shortly if he has not done so already. And I think I'm going to reach out to him and see if we can't get him on to talk with him about these these challenges that he faced while over there, the anti-whiteism that he's facing. Now, of course, all of you know, if you know Mr. Taylor, he is about as genteel a man as you could possibly meet, as generous, as kind. I just saw Jilly Storm. Jason, you do draw the best of our people. Thank you very much. And you're one of them, Jilly. Thank you for being here. Jilly Storm came up with the ethno state of mind, which was absolutely brilliant. So let's see. But I was just saying that he's a brilliant man. He has never spoken of violence. He has always spoken out against violence, always spoken out against criminality, gone out of his way to be kind to the anti-whites. It takes a much different tact than I do when it comes to the anti-whites. And I guess that's a great demonstration of how we can, as Westmen, disagree on how to arrive at our objective of recapturing our destiny and yet still work together. Jared Taylor and I have very different approaches about how we speak about the anti-whites and to the anti-whites. And yet, even though he has been this gentle, this careful, this kind, this considerate when it comes to the anti-whites, he has nonetheless been targeted. And the reason why, as I stated yesterday, is because it's not that the anti-whites are against white supremacism. It's not that they're against white separatism. It's not that they're against white supremacy. It's that they are against white people. And so Jared Taylor was over there speaking, even in these countries that we from the United States romanticize because of the distance from them as being potential refuges if something absolutely goes wrong over here in the United States. And indeed, it was the country of Poland when Jared Taylor, I think, was in, and I do believe I am correct, in Zurich airport, waiting for his connecting flight to travel up to Stockholm for the Skansa Forum, and after which he was going to go to something called the Awakening Conference in Turku, Finland. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. And they stopped him there. They actually stamped his passport. They were going to let him walk away. This man. Now, also keep in mind that Mr. Taylor is not an extremely young man. So you have somebody that you would not. It's your father. You have somebody you would not want being accosted. Of course, you wouldn't want this for anybody in the cause, but you have somebody here that you would not want to be accosted by authorities. You would not want to be embarrassed in front of people and authorities at an airport. Something that absolutely broke my heart when Phoenix Fire reached out to me and let me know that she had indeed discovered that this had happened. And thank you for that, Phoenix Fire. So I pulled up the story. He was called back to the counter, and the woman there told him unceremoniously that he had to wait there for the authorities. Can you imagine?
What country was he in? Did he go straight to Sweden? It was for the Skansa Forum. Jason's actually filling me in on this. I know of the situation, but I've been working the last couple of days, and I don't know all of the details.
Well, I believe he was in Zurich. He was actually in Zurich. He was at the airport.
So it's that's in the Schengen zone, but correct. It's of course it's, Switzerland's kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It's a non-EU country, but it is in the Schengen zone where European peoples can travel between those countries. It's most of the European countries at this point more freely without having to use their passports. Of course, a lot of people now believe that the Schengen zone was established kind of as a bait and switch to prepare for bringing the migrants or invaders in, and then they are able to just land in any Schengen zone country and then move freely about most of Europe.
Precisely. And so it effectively is, the Schengen zone is effectively Europe. And when he was in Zurich waiting for his connecting flight, this is when he was accosted. The authorities came. Of course, they were confused when they were talking to this erudite, genteel gentleman, wondering why he could possibly be banned from all of Europe. They asked him what he was up to. How could he be targeted thus? And he told them that he speaks on the nationalism of these different countries. He wants these different European countries to remain intact, to continue as they were created by the white race. And so he was told, well, you are not allowed to leave the airport. He was given a voucher for food. They kept his passport. They gave him a room number 18, which was actually just a bed separated by these thin partitions with other beds where people are meant to stay the night if they have to stay over at the airport. So no privacy aside from a curtain. Excuse me. And he lamented, of course. Oh, and the most important thing about this, I think, is, and what I touched upon yesterday, is that we are always, a lot of people in the white positive sphere are always looking for someone else to be our savior. We're always looking for some political party over in Europe, or some country in Europe, or some politician here in the US. And it's time to stop doing that. That's what we talked about. So everybody has been looking to Poland as a great refuge for our people. Well, it was Poland who was the one that requested of the Schengen zone that everybody ban him. And of course, that's what happened. And he was unceremoniously detained, and then not arrested, but detained, and then deported. At least that was the schedule. Early this morning, he may already be home, have landed at Reagan or Dulles. It is now 10:51, so we have gone over by a few minutes for the transition. So here's how this is going to work, folks, and we're going to see if it's going to work just right as we would like it to. Now, if you want to continue super chatting, you may still super chat, but you cannot super chat by way of YouTube on Jared's channel. You can, however, super chat by way of the familiar alternative that is both in the description under this video and in the description of the video that we will be transitioning to on Jared's channel. We just had another super chat. I will read that. Zero Schizo super chatting with $5 Peruvian, I believe. As a foreigner, I got to tell you, they are already expanding the deplatforming over here. If you wish, I could fill you in about that. Best wishes. Well, we'll talk about that, Zero Schizo. Thank you so much for the offer, and thank you so much for the super chat as well. So, folks, this is how it's going to work. We're going to try to do this. We're going to see what happens. As soon as Jared, in a moment, he is going to, on his computer, begin the process, open up the screen to go live with his live stream, the continuation.
There's already a countdown link there.
Okay, so the countdown link is already there.
So for the audience, I'm going to put that in this chat right now. And then I'm going to have to hop off of this to immediately go live there. Jason already has the link in his Twitter DM and will then join me. But we want to see if this relay works, because we might use this for fun things in the future.
Yeah, and it might also be something that ultimately we end up having to maybe use occasionally when it comes to the censorship. We're just trying to stay ahead of what the anti-whites are up to. We know that they never sleep because the devil doesn't have to. So we have to find ways to stay ahead of what they're doing. So, folks, look, Jared, you say you dropped it in the chat?
I dropped it in the chat. Maybe Spartan Warrior Queen could do it again in a moment. Okay. And even if you could just go to my channel, the main page on my channel, you should see it there. It says it's Late Night Somewhere, Part 2, Jared and Jason. So I am going to hop off here, and then, Jason, you'll end this in a moment. And if everyone could go join us on Jared, my channel, The Great Order.
What do you think, just quickly, do you think that if you opened another tab and with that go live link and you opened it while you're still live here, what do you think will happen?
Actually, I'll tell you what happened. I started the Hangouts and it's giving me a sub window where it says you're already in a video call. Take me there or end the other call. So I'm going to hit end the other call, and that should just initiate the normal Hangout for this next stream.
All right, that's what we're going to do, folks. So you're going to follow us over there. I guess in a way, we're also challenging you all to see if
make the jump with us. We want to see how many do we have now? How many do we have with us? 216. I want to see 216, exactly 216 over on the Great Order.
We'll be continuing to talk about all of these things. I also want to mention, I don't know if Jared was able to catch yesterday, the 9 words that Althea, a brilliant woman and supporter of the white well-being, she took a bit of one of my quotes and said that we need to start sharing the 9 words when people, and then Clarion beautifully added to that, that it should be most appropriately used when people, anti-whites, are trying to white guilt us. It's a very powerful.
Well, I don't know that 9 is a special number, so why don't we leave that as a cliffhanger?
We will indeed.
You could tell, and you could tell me what that is when we go over there. But I'm going to leave here, and I'll see you all there in a moment.
All right. Okay, folks. We're going to follow Jared on over. All of you. Another big thank you to Ballista for the $50 super chat, the first time super chatting to White Wellbeing. Thank you so much, and we deeply appreciate it. We hope to see you participating in the chat moving forward as a regular in our growing community. And we're going to sign off now, and I will see you on Jared's channel. The link, of course, Spartan Warrior Queen, beautifully adding it to the chat. See you all there.